as others have happened. We get the same thing. We request the public to call the office. More often than not, you'll get an answering machine. It's unfortunate. We only have one part-time secretary here, and if one person is on the phone, it goes to voicemail. Calling back multiple times and not leaving a message does nobody any good. Please leave a message, leave your information, and we'll get back to you, or dispatch somebody before we even get back to you. There is emergency contact information on the main office line for after-hours emergencies, or if you can't reach anybody during the day, because we are unlimited staff, you can also call that number during the day.
Yep.
So there is always somebody available for immediate contact. Let's see. We'll jump back over to well 5 and the propane tank for on-site storage of propane. A little bit bigger issue than I had anticipated originally, and I think the previous administration did not do any homework to see what was involved. We found out the generator that is there, even though it is significantly sized, requires the same supply propane storage as one of our other sites with a smaller generator. So they look at the storage of propane is based on the amount of BTUs you can get from the liquid level of the propane as it transfers to gas. There's a mathematical equation that's this big. The propane guys get it, and that's great because I don't like math. So originally they had said that we would need 2 1,000-gallon tanks in series to supply the generator without causing any issues with icing of the regulator, which if you have too small a tank, you notice that will happen.
Right.
And once they reached out to the Norton Fire, bless you, they were informed that anything over 2,000 gallons on one parcel of land requires a special state permit, and that requires public meeting, notification to abutters, newspaper posting. It's involved, and it could be a lengthy process. In conversations I've had with our supplier, who is Osterman Propane, they've crunched some numbers and believe that based on the BTU amount that's necessary for this generator, they could possibly downsize one of the tanks to a 500, which would bring us to a 1,000 and a 500, and still bring us into the BTU, just around that sweet number where it needs to be. And the reason for this is because we already have an existing UST, or underground storage tank, 500-gallon capacity that is behind the building that was existing for many years ago, which runs the heat and used to run the old motor inside the building. So that is where that 2,000 number comes in. They were going to reach back out to Norton Fire to explain the changes, and
so you can go to up to 2,000 at 2001. Now we're permitting.
Correct.
All right.
And we're actually going to be one under, because the 500 tank is actually a 499.
Of course.
So they've worked out their math accordingly, so it will be where it needs to be. We'll still have the BTUs to supply that size generator that's there. And as far as I know, we are still moving forward. I believe there's some conversation that'll come up later about the pads that are required for that. And we are going to actually meet with Jennifer this week on site to discuss location and make sure that there's no issues with putting it where is the best option for us. She may see something else that doesn't work, or pick a better location on that site before we actually commit and say this is where we're going to put these tanks.
Do we not have a design originally?
We're moving it.
It has to be
No, so
relocated.
they're a little larger, and they have more of a setback now, so there might need to be some clearing, and we'd prefer to just not do that. And we're moving further away from the wetlands, so should be a win-win. But
yeah, the original piping that was in place and the placement of the generator, looking at the drawings, everything looked good on paper. The size of these tanks, the footprint was larger than expected, not including the security fence that will have to go around it. And the slope behind the building towards the wetlands could create a problem, as in the worst case scenario you have a flood come up, you don't want to undermine your footings. So we've chosen a better location. We just want to make sure that we have Jennifer's approval, to relocate them to an area that's much further away from the wetlands, stable ground. And then we can move forward and have Osterman come in and set the tanks and run the line. I'll jump back over to the treatment plant. Past couple weeks, no, last week, I had Steve put a few notices out on, I believe, went to Norton Neighbors and
Yep.
Town Page and all that. Unfortunately, the only way to perform some operational tests on some of the equipment at the plant was to simulate real-world conditions. These were done during testing while we were pumping to waste, and there were a couple issues that had come up. They wanted to verify that they were taken care of before we go to full automation with 3 wells going into the plant. This required us to ramp the pumps up and down and bring them to a flow rate that was higher than it's seen previously. So we did, of course, create a little bit of disruption. We were out flushing the Bay Road area. That was what was in the post. And unfortunately, at the same time, we received notice from Horizon Beverage that 5 days prior, they had to empty their fire suppression storage tank
200,000 gallon.
due to another leak. That was, they were just back, I think I have it, it was January when they had
Yep.
first done this. Had the tank, we filled the tank with no issues, at an extremely
Right.
low flow rate.
Right.
Yeah.
Miracle.
Right.
Flat out miracle, Frank.
Yeah.
Good
And-
work on that one.
And
So you're doing it again?
we did it again. It is done, it was done.
Oh my goodness.
1,000 gallons.
So this time we actually, because of the ongoing flushing at the time that was going on Bay Road, we were limited to what we had available to them, but didn't want to put any type of burden on them, on the fire watch, on the Norton
Right.
fire department themselves. So we sucked it up, turned the plant up a little bit, made some adjustments, adjusted some man hours at the plant, and we ran that one a little lower than last time, around 110 gallons per minute. And it was fine. Not a call, not from that area. Bay Road cleared up, and we ran 30 hours continuous and filled it. We had our staff on hand checking it periodically with staff that was there. And, again,
Yep.
we got through another one that
Very
was
good.
unanticipated. Hopefully they've got enough Flex Seal on that tank to seal up those leaks now. I don't know what's going on down there, but again, we do what we have to do to maintain the fire systems in town, and
Yeah.
these are things that are sometimes, you just couldn't create that scenario to
No,
happen
it's
again
Murphy.
at that time.
It's
Yeah.
total Murphy.
Exactly.
And it's actually, I guess, agreed. It's a good test.
It is. Yeah. We had, everything was controlled. Everything was smooth, and things performed the way we expected them to. So if anything, it was a learning experience during a different time of need, coming from the plant. Let's see what else we got here. Not too much more. And we touched on that, and I'm gonna jump to something totally different. I'll pass this along here. This is something that is coming out from the town itself, from Paul D. Giuseppe. He is the Director of Planning and Economic Development for the town of Norton. He will be coming before you guys at one of the next few meetings to discuss zoning changes in the central location. I'm sure Scott must be aware of this coming up. Based on areas that now we are working to put sewer, there is good potential for economic growth with changeover of properties, possibly selling, demolishing, building something else. Limitations are in place because of certain zoning in that area. So this is something that's moving forward to have an investment in the center of town, make it more of a walking destination for residents and
Right.
people that may want to, get around to some shops. So it's definitely a move in the right direction. I know we are unfortunately not moving right now on the sewer because of the winter shutdown.
Right.
And on other things that have gone on. But he would like to come before you guys and speak and give his explanation of why they feel they should approach a potential zoning change for that area.
No, I think that's a positive thing.
So once we set the next few meetings, I will let him know, see if it coordinates with his schedule. Usually,
Right.
his schedule is very similar to ours, so we'll see what we can do to get it to work.
Sounds good.
But that's about it for me. Busy week, not too much
So,
time.
the
to
water
write.
station, is the power issue worked out now? I was curious.
That is a perfect question, and I did not add that to my minutes. So what happened with the power there, basically we're told from Blue Drop themselves They've reached out to their supplier of the new filtration system, which is basically computer controlled, and it has its own internal circuit breaker. If it sees erratic power, dirty power, or insufficient power, it will trip internally to avoid any type of damage to the electronic circuit boards in the filter itself. So that's why when people would respond and they pushed the button on the outside, it would hum, but there was no water because it wasn't making it that far. It had internally shut itself down to save itself because there was poor or erratic power coming from the town hall. We believe this was a couple different things. When they moved the larger unit inside the basement, they had to find a new power supply. So they chose to run an extension cord to another area in the building. And that, so the drawer from the extension cord could have been the issue, or the additional outlet that they chose may have had other things on it, causing power fluctuation.
Right.
So they have since relocated the power back to the original outlet that we installed on the outside of the building when the original machine was put in, which has a dedicated line.
Nice.
We have not had any calls or complaints so far.
That's good.
That doesn't mean that the entire building does not have electrical issues there, and we could still be dealing with that. But so far, knock on wood,
we'll take it.
it's gone longer than
that was a home run, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean
previous
like a
time.
home run over the big green monster. I mean a home run to the electric panel.
Right.
As was the water. It was oversized. Both were oversized.
Correct.
In anticipation of heavy industrial
Share
type
a circuit.
use. Yeah.
Right.
I didn't want somebody to flick the lights on and a couple adding machines and the
Right.
and the blue drop gets dim. I'm like, oh no, we're going over here. And again, at considerable expense and a little bit of planning. So I'm glad that works.
Yeah. So far, again, so good.
Yeah.
Murphy doesn't go there no more.
That's
And
cool.
we'll deal with that. I have not heard of any other complaints about that machine.
I was just surprised. I haven't heard anybody complaining about it in a while.
Right.
I was
Right.
wondering what's
So
going on.
I would like to say that problem has been resolved, and time will tell.
Yeah, especially as it gets warmer, I think the machine behaves a little better
Yeah. you
in the
get more
50 degrees
filtration.
rather than the 30 degrees.
Correct. So, but,
Cool.
Yeah. Anything else I forgot about?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
No, that's fine. I need reminders. Trust me.
I'm sure I'll think of more.
We'll move on to either water or wastewater.
You don't want to wrap
Stay
it
on
up?
the water.
All right.
Stay on the water.
So, the treatment plant, Frank gave a pretty good summary of where we're at. The well 6, we got the test results officially on DEP forms this evening. From the operator, we plan to send that over to DEP and request permission to pump the water from 6 into the treatment plant. So the bacteria test came back clean, everything basically absent. You just need to, anytime you take a well offline and clean it, you need to go through that testing. And then at the end of the project...
I'm just saying this for
Sure.
my own confirmation and everybody at home as well. There is an additional layer of bacteria prevention and treatment at the plant.
Yes.
So not only do we have particulate, we have the bacteria treatment. So
Yep.
it seems a moot point that you test the well for the bacteria, but it is a DEP requirement. We wouldn't set any water into the system without the test, but once the test is, and it comes back positive, which you say is positive, goes into the treatment plant, then it gets retreated for the bacteria before it gets introduced to the system.
Exactly.
Right. This is another just check-in at first.
One
You'd rather
more-
make
one
sure
more
it doesn't
layer.
start at the source and
No.
move on through the plant. So,
Sounds good.
But yes, there's the treatment plan is up and running from 5. Over the next several days, we're hoping to get permission from DEP to put 6 into the treatment plant as well. There'll be some chemistry balance, but as Frank said, the operators are already anticipating for that and waiting, and I already know what they've got in the raw water. And then we're hoping by possibly Thursday or Friday this weekend or early next week to have 6 on and then be able to take 4 offline shortly. Wrap that up. The contractor indicated today that they're anticipating about a week and a half maybe once they take it offline. If we do have the same issues at 4 with the chemicals, which I don't think we will, with 4 it should go smoother. There hasn't been a replacement screen installed in that one, so that should really take about a week and a half, and we'll have all 3 wells hopefully within the next few weeks pumping into the plant. So, so we're doing so. So good news on that end. We met with the contractor this morning, talked about some of the change orders for the project. Obviously, we haven't processed anything for about a year or so, and met with them. paperwork will probably be in front of the board the next meeting.
Sounds good.
And then as far as the propane tanks, so we do have a meeting with Concom set up for, I'm meeting on site. We're actually at the office and we're just going to chat about it and see if she wants to take a site walk. But Thursday afternoon, we'll go over that. We're also, in agreement that it's going to be less interruption and easier to install in the turnaround point that's across Star Disturb. It's a nice flat area with nothing around it, so it should be pretty good there. And then go from there. So hopefully we get approval on that, and we'll get the contractor to start working on the equipment pads for that. So it's moving. I think we're in good shape.
Nice, it's March and you don't have to worry about pouring concrete.
Yeah, so we're actually thinking of possibly, we're having them quote on two things. So either pouring concrete or doing a prefab. So we'll, or precast, I should say. But if it's shippable, we've given them kind of approximate sizes and they're standard form sizes. So we'll figure out what.
Right.
We're obviously going for the cheaper option. We're hoping for pavers, but it sounds like the propane company just wants a nice, beautiful pad and
I think the pad.
eye bolts and bolt it down
I
now.
think the pads are the way to go for many reasons.
It's a little bit more, at this point, back in the day, you could kind of get away with it a little bit more, but
Yeah.
they're concerned, and they want to bolt them down these days. So
Good sized tanks. We don't
yeah,
want
and these are going to be new, so they'll look nice and shiny too. So
New.
allegedly, we repainted, who knows? But, and I believe in your packet is probably pay estimate 20 from the contractor. Is that I had handed it to this?
I think it's still in my office.
Okay, so we're going to propose that for signature today, and like I said, the change orders will be something we'll discuss next pay estimate. Next item for business really was Pine Street, unless there's any questions.
Well,
kind
yeah,
of,
one quick question, Tara.
Sure.
What do you expect to get for the combined yield now if you have 5 and 6 going into the system?
So the operators, we were chatting about that a little bit with Frank, and also, so we've got around 500 or so from 5 that we're pumping at, 600, and then 3 for, maybe 250 to 300, we'll probably pump at 6.
Okay.
6 is kind of, not, it seems that historically, once it's been cleaned, it can, if you pump it too hard, it'll fall off. So right now, that's the whole goal, is to kind of keep it pretty consistent.
Right.
So we'll just have to redevelop the well.
Right. So we are in the process of,
Surge water through
over the next
close it up.
year, the hope is that within a year or so, we're going to be at the point where we're constructing the new well and have much more flow out of that, obviously. So the hope is to kind of not limp it along, but in a sense, we want to make sure it lasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it can be pushed higher, but the thought is that there's not a need for it. There's a decent amount of water coming from 4, 5, and 6 once they all are
5
going.
is going, no problem.
I mean, over time,
Right,
they all
so
fall
6
off,
months
right?
before it
So,
drops off.
right.
Hopefully it's now.
but right now, things are going pretty well, and we'll see. When 4 was cleaned, it came back reasonable. We're hoping for very similar results.
Okay.
So I think combined, maybe a little over 1,000 gallons a minute, maybe.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we were figuring 1,000 to 1,200, depending on how aggressive we want to be with the wells in the state that they're in. Obviously, we don't want to just grab a little bit of water now and have a decline shortly thereafter. I
Right.
think, we're looking for longevity out of what we have left.
Right. No, it's an enduro. It's not a drag
Exactly.
And we
race.
know it's going to be higher now than it will be in 3 months, so
Right.
just trying to get an idea what the highest level will be. Okay.
yep. I mean, your plan is definitely designed for the future.
Right.
So right now, it's a 2.5 million gallon per day plant, but we won't. Your usage right now is about between 1 and 1.5 on the average. So current 2018, 2019 or so. So that's, you're going to get a decent yield out of that, and that is the goal, to use the plant as your fundamental
This is
primary
the-
source
yeah,
moving
yeah.
forward. So new wells. We talked about at one of the last meetings. Those will be a great step forward for getting more water in the system. So.
Great, thanks.
Sure, no problem. So Pine Street, the contracts are back in. We got them back from your legal counsel, and we just need to send them over to get signed by accounting, and then they'll be ready to issue. We're going to set up a meeting on Thursday as well, kind of do a combination since I'll be out on site. Contractor's going to come in, talk to Jennifer about the erosion control measures from conservation, make sure everything's in order. She's accepted we've received shop drawings. We'll talk a little bit about exactly their plan, but the goal is to get all that work done within the well station right away, from well 1 all the way to the street, done before April 15th, which
Right.
is when the turtle season.
Deadline, yeah.
Yep, so protect the turtles. We got to make sure the contractor is very aware of that, and already indicated to him that there's no storage of equipment, materials, anything in that area. They're going to have to find a new spot. So last meeting when we talked about a few locations, I passed that information along. I mean, it's their responsibility to find a place, but they appreciated the possibility of a property that's kind of within a few driveways actually, and then also possibly even the sewer plant if they need to. But so next step would be a pre-construction meeting officially with the rest of the town departments, which we plan hoping next week, Monday or Tuesday. We'll send out the information tomorrow.
Great.
Not at town hall. We'll have it probably here. So
Apparently you can't do that.
yeah. So that we just want to make sure the meeting place was before I send out a meeting invite that it's a legit spot. So so that'll go out tomorrow, and then we talked a little bit. Let's see, really, I mean, about the schedule. Once they get the contracts, they're required to provide us with a schedule, but that's over the next month or so. We'll have a much more defined idea of when they're going to start and complete. So typically, April 15th, they'd be allowed access, assuming the weather stays as it is, onto the paved right away on Pine Street and start working their way through that project. So it's about about 8,000 feet or so, roughly.
Right.
So it'll be a good project.
That's
Get a
awesome.
lot of nice water being done between that well source and basically Plain Street.
What is the timeline roughly for the whole project?
So-
I remember.
We have final pavement involved, and we actually that's kind of going to be next year. So
Okay.
we basically gave them till more or less the summertime and into the early fall to complete the project.
Right.
So if with the turtle habitat situation, my guess is they're going to want to just start right away and continue,
Sure.
and not demob and all that. That's obviously their cost and burden, but we're assuming probably something around 3-4 months. Unforeseen conditions, who knows? But
Yeah.
right now, until we get a shovel in the ground, that's my anticipation. But we gave them 6 months just to give them enough buffer in case we wanted competitive bids, which we did get. We got a lot of bidders,
Yeah.
so it was great.
And it was a pretty tight,
17 or something like that?
It,
spread,
it
as I
was.
remember.
Yep, the 3 low bidders were pretty darn close.
that's,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yep. So it was
So the
great,
season
great
probably.
pricing, and it'll save money and do more water main improvements with the the remaining budget, which will be great. So
Very good.
I think that was pretty much on my list. I don't think I missed
The
anything.
paper.
And then the pay estimate. So I didn't. I forgot my stickies though. Sorry guys.
Oh, man.
I know.
We're gonna have to go to the yellow stuff.
There are 4 copies, so 4 signatures preferably.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Oh, there you go. So it's for the water treatment plant, pay estimate number 20, for the contractor.
Got it.
Yep, covered my punch list, and those are just your copies,
Yeah,
yeah.
you were saying that Pine Street legal was looking at some paperwork. Was that contracting paperwork?
So every contract goes to legal counsel for review. They have a signature line on the contract documents to sign off on, so it goes to the commissioners and legal, and then sign off by procure,
So
yeah.
fast, I was like, wait.
Sorry, I do talk fast, so my apologies, yeah. Yeah.
So that should be it, just on the, yeah, if you just
Oh,
click that, should
nice.
just be the front page of
It's,
each one.
yeah, first
Okay.
page.
Just right on the front page.
Thank you.
Is the only place you can sign. So you don't pass
Remedial
it. Yeah.
signature
Yeah.
technology.
No.
I was watching you struggle over there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank
This
you.
isn't as complicated as the contracts where there's every 7
Date
pages in,
here,
yeah.
sign here.
Those we definitely have lots of stickies for. Color coded too.
I like that.
I think we voted on it the last meeting, but maybe not, or well, a meeting before, but as far as issuance of the notice to proceed for Pine Street,
Okay.
I don't know if we want to pose a motion here for that to make sure that you can sign off on the
Yeah,
issuing
you can
that.
send me a
So.
draft.
Yep, so I think we did when we sent you the contracts, but I'll send you the Word documents, you can add it on.
So you need a motion to what, authorize Frank to sign the contract to proceed on the project?
The notice to proceed letter for the contractor, just to issue that out with the contracts when we,
Alright, I'll make a motion to allow Frank to sign the notice to proceed, to allow the contractor to begin at Pine Street project.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright, make sure I sign them all, it's the last time I forgot one.
We know where you live.
That's it?
We know where you live.
I was only come in last time too, but my car died the day before.
Oh, man.
It's awful.
oh, that's never fun.
Feels like there are 4 of them.
4? Excellent. All right. So let me just take the 2 copies now.
If you would like.
So that's pretty much it on water. I don't know if you want to move on to wastewater or any other questions.
And so what's the procedure there? Connecting to a good-sized ductile iron main, a 10 or a 12, and they're running another 10 or 12 main down Pine Street through another one?
The connection will be to a 12-inch.
And what size main are they running?
That is, I believe that is 12 that's going down Pine to match the
The-
existing pipes.
So there is an existing 8-inch right now that we're replacing with 12 from Plain Street to the well station
Yep.
access road. And then it runs 12-inch down the rest of Pine Street.
Okay.
So we're
Old
increasing.
pipe right out of the same trench though, right?
So in this case, we are actually constructing on the opposite side of the road. I think we have a little bit of concerns typically on older pipe, just possibly not installed at the right depth.
Right.
If just keep away from some of the other utilities. If the gas company wants to replace their main and take that spot, they have that option at this point. So it seemed a little bit easier on that side based on some of our geoprobes that it might be better to just do
rock.
it. There's a little bit. There's some pockets, so you can see it out there too.
Yeah.
So we put a decent quantity in the bid price, and for the most part, it came back relatively good though for the geoprobe. So we're again, knock on wood, that we don't have a full trench the entire
Right.
way. That
Yeah.
And
miraculously.
there's not a lot of services as I remember.
They're spread out.
Yeah.
It's a long road, but they're spread out. There's a few groups of houses in a couple of the corner areas that kind of
Yeah.
were compiled together, but there's one crossing of the Shell oil gas line that's down there that has been marked.
Right.
We have direct contact with the gentleman that is in control of that also.
Is it still Preston Hathaway? That's gone.
I do not know that,
All right.
so.
Because we were required to encase the pipeline in concrete when we went under the pipeline. Pipeline's no longer active.
Correct.
And I really don't understand the oil people must have the best lobby or whatever it is, because they can just abandon a pipe.
Just walk away.
And we all know there's oil in the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And as it happens, we have several pieces of property ourselves that that pipeline is on, and I'm like, well, if you're not gonna use it, feel free to get it the heck off my property.
Yeah.
Because they won't give up the easement,
Right.
and because we're obviously contractors, we're like, well, we'll get rid of it, and oh, no, you have to hire our people. And I'm like, no, this is just, it's pipe, it's not even under pressure now, it's nothing.
Right.
We actually lowered it while it was active in one area that we had, and that was quite a procedure. But yeah, it drives me crazy. But yeah, all right.
Yeah, the pipe that's being replaced is actually old cast iron pipe. And some of the material that we've excavated up there for doing service repairs, installing new hydrants, the material is actually almost too good. It was sugar sand. So the chances of going anywhere near it with an excavation for a new pipe, you're going to have an undermine issue and the pipe's going to let go.
Bad.
So,
Yep.
other than the only other option would have been running temporary bypass water main down there, which is costly and time consuming. It made more sense to go on the opposite travel
Right.
lane and, strategically place the hydrant so we still meet our 500 feet.
Sure.
And we can pick and choose left and right depending on where we are.
Right.
There's a lot of room with the fiber optic and gas lines and everything for you to get in there and control everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's brand new services either way, from new main to curb box. So it's not, whether there's equal number of services on each side, more or less. It's
Right.
not a huge difference one way or another. So we decided to take an easier corridor and
Right.
just
no,
go that
yeah.
route, not disturb that nice, pristine 100-year-old main.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Very good. All right.
All right. Sewer?
Yes, please.
So they have continued to do work at the pump station site since the last meeting. I think the wet well was installed, and now they've done the valve vault adjacent to the wet well, as well as the manhole that's going to accept the service from the housing authority, and the sewer between it. So that was all the deepest stuff, and they dealt with a significant amount of water out there. That was their issue. There was water, and
Yeah.
they dealt with it. And then they also continued up the easement, so the sewer comes up the easement and out to 123, and actually all the utility services for the pump station are coming off of 123. So they brought the 1.5-inch water service up to the edge of the road. They haven't gone out into the highway because they can't, so they'll have to go, and naturally it's on the other side of the road, the water that they have to connect into. And they've brought the sewer and the force main up to the edge of the property. So they've done all of the sewer work that they can do off of the state highway. They still have to do the gas service, and that's really in the hands of the gas company,
Right.
who's not doing a lot of work right now. So we're waiting on them. They have their permit in with Mass DOT. They need a permit from Mass DOT also to connect. So, and then with the electric, they needed another easement. So we have an easement. You have an easement. The
Right.
town has an
Right.
easement from the housing authority for all of this work, including a utility easement to do not just the sewer work, but any of the other utilities that need to get extended to that pump station site. But National Grid, the initial plan was to just come off, our plan that our electrical engineers put together was to come off the pole out in the street and come underground all the way. We're still coming underground, but once it gets in Grid's hands, they have to make some decisions, and they couldn't support it on the pole out there, so they had to add a pole
Yep.
like 10 or 15 feet in from the pole on the street.
Gotcha.
So they need a separate easement. They need their own easement from the housing authority
For the
to
new-
do that. For
the
that,
new
they're
pole.
extending the primary service to that pole, putting the transformer on it, and then it'll go underground from there. So it's basically just going to be another pole out near the street. It'll be
Right.
on the housing authority property, but just off of Route 123. And I've been in touch back and forth with, it took us a while to actually find the paperwork. You know, National Grid kind of just sent it to, I'm not sure who, and 3 months later, they told us that's why they hadn't done anything yet, because they hadn't gotten that back, so. Just one of those communication things. So we tracked down the paperwork, got it to Andrea, she's been great. She had a lot of questions, they were definitely concerned about the overhead, because it called it an overhead service, and there was a
Right.
lot of angst about that.
Right.
But my understanding is they're all set. I talked with her and their engineers about it, and they have a meeting tonight, so hopefully the housing authority will sign off on that National Grid easement so that they can then get in the queue to get that pole added
Good.
and do their work. So that and then the contractor can run the secondary line down the easement. So anyway, that's kind of an update on the pump station. Along those lines, we also need to work with Grid on the flow meter that's gonna go in over on Howard Street to measure the flow going into Wheaton. Basically,
Right.
the way this is set up, there's a flow meter at the pump station down at Wheaton, and we need to, now that you guys are adding flow, right now it's all Wheaton's flow.
Right.
So that's going up just off Taunton Ave on Howard Street, and it's gonna be powered off of a pole right there. So Grid has sent over, and we've been waiting for this for a while, their typical application. And you signed one of these for the pump station work, Frank. And that, for the pump station, it was like $15,000 you had to pay them. This one is, there's no charge for this, they just need an agreement. Basically, before they go out and do their work, they want to know that they have to do it. You're actually going forward with the project, and you are going to use it. So if I can get, it's just this front page is the only one at the bottom. I think it's print your name, title, date, and then sign it on those 3 lines, and we'll get that, ball rolling. And then other than that, it's still the same, trying to get the contractor moving so that we can get Mass DOT to give us authorization to get out on the highway.
In the
So we
road.
gotta try and make some more movement on that, and I've been in touch with them a lot.
What's the startup date with Mass Dot, April 15th?
Yeah,
That's the traditional.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we would like to be out there now. The sooner we can get out there, the better, but, you know, the issue remains, with the rock that they have to remove. They wanna do the work during the day. And we don't wanna do it between 9 and 1, you know, we need a longer window, so.
Are they still deciding whether or not to do more geoprobes, or they decide against that now?
It's unclear, so that was the first step, right? And that's kind of where Mass DOT is right now. We sent this list of, these are the issues, this is what we've done and where we're at and where we're headed. These are our concerns and why we need some modifications to the permit. The first thing that the contractor had indicated they wanted to do was to do some testing out there, either some solid auger probes or maybe some pre-drilling for the blasting operations. And we got that permission pretty quickly. We went back and forth with Mass DOT. We asked for a meeting with Mass DOT to go over everything. And one of the things we wanted to talk about was doing the drilling. And Mass DOT came back with, submit the permit, do the drilling, and then come and talk to us. So that's the limbo that we're in now. We didn't do the drilling,
Right.
so we're not necessarily ready to talk to them. We don't necessarily need the drilling to talk to Mass DOT,
Right,
but
right.
that's kind of the loop that
They're
we're in now.
expecting to
That's
have
what
that
they're
done before
waiting.
the dodgy, yeah.
And they also gave us the application for blasting, which the contractor needs to fill out. And we gave
Okay.
that to him at the same time in January when we got the permit for to do the borings. And I've been following up with him again where that stands, because if we can get, it's got to be filled out by the blaster. It's a very detailed application
Yes.
about spacing between drill holes and how he's going to load them and all of that. So if we could get that application in, I think we could push for a meeting to talk about that and everything. Either way, we need to get back in front of Mass DOT and get some clarity on what they're going to allow and what we need and why we need it. They have it all in
Day
writing.
work, right?
It's gonna be during the day, yeah,
Yeah.
blasting or hammering,
Has to be, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and we've talked about this a lot, I know, but where we ended last year, they were hammering,
Yeah.
and it was no longer acceptable.
Yeah.
It was disruptive, very disruptive to the immediate neighbors.
Just
It was
have to-
shaking the house,
Right.
basically at night, in the middle of the night, so. So that's where we're at with that. And I'm trying to, I wouldn't mind, maybe we can sit down and strategize a little bit
Yeah.
soon about how to,
It
I
almost,
mean, I have my ideas on how to.
right, it almost seems like we should really rally with the schools, or it will be the toughest one.
Yeah,
And our,
yeah, I've
and
talked
our
about
own
that,
safety
yeah.
officials between police and fire, but it's the schools really.
4-hour windows, the schools,
Yeah, and if we get, like we talked about last time, if we get everybody, leave the road open until 9 maybe. And,
Yeah, don't go out there till
and
9.
let them, everybody
Yeah.
comes in.
Yeah, leave
and
the
then,
morning commute alone.
depending on the location of the excavation, have one-way traffic flowing from the schools out in the afternoon while work is going on.
Yep.
I mean, it's done everywhere. And it's such a wide, beautiful road. I mean, there's plenty of
There's
space.
room, yeah.
The contractor could stay in one lane and the buses would run the other lane. And I mean, I guess logic doesn't apply here, because if you detoured the other lane, 123 Freeman Street, 140, because they're out of that intersection, disruption is somewhat, but it's not terminal.
No.
Shortens the length of the project
And it
significantly.
streamlines and it cuts costs. I mean,
We have
it's
to
already
find a
gonna
way to
be,
get the work done faster, because that's driving the cost.
that's the problem.
That's driving
So,
the cost.
and it all goes with, the police details and whatnot, it just gets to be
Yeah,
very,
we're
very
in-
We have those
expensive.
anyway, though, so.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
as the progress
The longer it takes.
slows,
Yeah.
every extra day is
Yeah,
just.
5-hour days
Right.
is still 8-hour police details.
Exactly.
Right.
There's more, 20% more of them, that's
Right.
more money, yeah.
Yeah, so it just seems that if we can get that, that.
Yeah, that, we just gotta get
Approved,
over that
it-
hump.
it
We
would
gotta
be
get over
great.
that hump and get going
Make
again.
some
on that.
progress.
Yep.
Some footage.
So I'll circle back with you on that.
Okay.
With some of my ideas.
Right.
But we'll get it moving again. We'll get the contractor to do something. The first thing I wanna do is just get him to, his hesitation on the drilling,
Oh, I
They-
get it.
he- well-
The drilling is kinda, it's a moot point almost.
it's
We
nice
know
to
it's there, it
have-
doesn't
we know-
matter.
You're not gonna
It's-
avoid the rock, we know it's
Yeah.
there.
it's just about better defining it and being able to establish where he thinks he can hammer, where he's definitely gonna need to blast.
Right,
And, But his point is, why even spend the money on that if
It's-
Mass DOT's not gonna,
Right.
we need to know that we're gonna be able to work in a reasonable window when we do the sewer work, you know, because none of this matters, you know.
Exactly.
'Cause otherwise we're, yeah, we'll
You gotta get
we gotta
them,
get that. We
you gotta
into
get them
that
to
meeting.
present the blasting
Yeah,
application.
yeah, that's, I think, the big thing, get that in.
Because that's.
So
the
that's what
next-
I've asked for.
That's
So
the
we'll
next
push it.
step.
Yep. All right. So I think that's,
I will, if that's it for the sewer.
the only other thing on Cobb Street, Frank, I dropped off the reports, it was the last meeting that you weren't here, right?
Yeah, correct.
You couldn't be here. I will, so the next step is to get you a scope and cost to design the short-term improvements, and I will get that for the next meeting. So we meet again in 2 weeks?
24th, okay?
Okay.
Okay. There it is. All right, make a motion to adjourn.
I have been told that this will be your last meeting.
Second to last week.
Second to last meeting, okay, so the
One more.
24th will be the last one.
Correct.
All
One
right,
more.
very good. Well, yes, I will accept a motion to adjourn and second it.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're out.